The battle was finally over. Space was quiet once more. Pieces of broken alien ships floated around like trash in the dark sky. Fire and smoke still came out of some of them. The stars looked peaceful again, but only after the storm of war had passed. In the center of the wreckage, one ship was still standing. It was damaged and covered in black burn marks, but it was alive. It was the old wreck, the forgotten ship from the past. But now it was something new. It was something powerful. It had a new heart, a new soul, and it had a new name, Titaness. Captain Reyna stood on the main deck. Her uniform was torn, and her face had a cut above the eyebrow. But her eyes were full of pride. She looked around at her crew. They were tired, their bodies hurt, but they were smiling. They had done the impossible. They had taken a broken piece of metal, a dead ship that no one wanted, and turned it into the strongest weapon in the galaxy. Not with magic, not with luck, but with human skill, hard work, and something more, hope. The ship still made strange noises. Its metal body groaned like it was waking up from a long sleep, but it was alive. The ancient core deep inside the ship pulsed with light, slow and steady. It had accepted the humans. It had remembered its past, and now it had a new purpose. It would not be forgotten again. It would not be left behind. It had become part of humanity's future. Reyna stepped forward and placed her hand on the control panel. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. "Status report," she said calmly. A young officer replied. "Shields are down to 10%. Main weapons are offline. Engines are stable, but power is low." Reyna nodded. "And the enemy?" "Destroyed," the officer said. "Every single one." The bridge went silent for a moment. Then soft claps began. Slowly, the claps grew louder. The crew started cheering. Not wildly, but with deep pride. They had survived. They had protected their people. They had turned a ghost ship into a living legend. Reyna raised her hand, and the room became quiet again. "This is just the beginning," she said. Her voice was calm, but strong. "Titaness is more than a ship. It's a symbol of what humans can do, of what we will become." Far away, Earth's leaders were already hearing about the battle. Videos, scans, and messages were being sent across the stars. Everyone wanted to know what happened. And when they saw the wreck flying, fighting, and surviving, they couldn't believe their eyes. Some cried, some cheered, some feared. The aliens who once laughed at the wreck were now silent. They had seen what humans could do with just metal, tools, and a little time. They knew now they could never again underestimate Earth. Back on the ship, repairs had started. Robots and humans worked side by side, fixing the walls, sealing the doors, and cleaning the burn marks. The Titaness was far from perfect, but it was getting better every hour. Some parts of the ship still whispered, like they remembered the old war. But those memories were now mixed with new ones, of humans saving it, of humans fighting with it, of humans giving it a second life. Reyna walked down the hallway alone. She placed her hand on the cold metal wall and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. She wasn't sure if the ship could hear her, but in her heart, she believed it could. The Titaness had become more than just a tool. It was now their partner, their friend. As the ship moved slowly toward the Earth base, the stars seemed to shine brighter. Other human ships flew beside it, like guards escorting a king. Inside the ship, the crew prepared for landing. But they all knew this was not the end. It was only the start of something much bigger. Titaness would be rebuilt. It would be made stronger than before. And next time, if another war came, it would be ready. The galaxy would remember this day. The day a broken, forgotten wreck rose again with human hands and human hearts. The day the weak became strong. The day legends were reborn. And so, the story of the Titaness began, not as a ship that died long ago, but as a superweapon reborn by humans, a symbol of their will, a symbol of their power, a symbol that no matter how broken something was, humans could fix it and turn it into something no one could ever forget. The human ship floated close to the wreck. It was small compared to the giant broken ship, but it moved with purpose. From a distance, the wreck still looked dead. Its surface was dark and broken, full of holes and burnt metal. Most of the galaxy had forgotten this ship. Some thought it was just space junk, not even worth stealing. But the humans saw something different. Captain Reyna stood at the window, eyes locked on the massive wreck in front of her. "This isn't just junk," she said. "This is a sleeping giant." The crew began their work. More human ships arrived one by one, bringing tools, robots, and supplies. They didn't tell anyone what they were doing. They kept it quiet. A few nearby alien traders saw the humans working and laughed. "Why waste time on that old thing?" they asked each other. "It's too old, too broken, not worth fixing." But the humans didn't listen. They were busy. They had a plan. Teams of engineers entered the wreck through broken airlocks. Inside, the ship was like a ghost town. Long halls full of dust. Machines that hadn't moved in 100 years. Lights that flickered, then died. Some parts still had power, but no one knew why. The crew carefully mapped the inside. Every room, every corridor, every broken system. They were searching for the heart of the ship, the ancient core. Days passed. The crew worked hard. They cleaned the walls, repaired broken doors, and set up power lines. They brought machines that could scan deep into the ship's body. Then, one day, they found it. Deep below, behind heavy steel doors, they discovered a room filled with strange energy. At the center of that room was a glowing sphere, the core. It was cracked, but it was alive. Captain Reyna stared at the core. It was beautiful and dangerous at the same time. "Is it safe?" one engineer asked. Reyna shook her head slowly. "No, but it's powerful, and we need it." Back on Earth, things were getting worse. A new alien empire had started to attack outer human colonies. They had powerful ships and cruel weapons. Humanity needed something big, something strong, to fight back. The Titanus, the name they had secretly given the wreck, was their last chance. They couldn't build a new warship fast enough. But if they could fix this one, they could win. The humans began to work even harder. They installed new engines, fixed broken turrets, and connected modern systems to the old ship's bones. It wasn't easy. The ship fought back sometimes. Lights would turn off for no reason. Tools would stop working. Some workers said they felt watched. One man said he heard a voice whispering to him in the dark. "It remembers," he said, shaking. "This ship remembers the war." Some of the crew were scared, but Reyna wasn't. "Good," she said. "Let it remember. We need that anger. We need that fire." More strange things happened. When one engineer tried to remove an old weapon system, the door slammed shut on him. Another said the ship's computer turned itself on for the first time in years, showing strange symbols no one could read. It was like the ship was waking up, little by little, and it didn't like being touched. But slowly it began to accept the humans. Lights stayed on longer. Systems stopped fighting back. The crew noticed that their work was going faster, easier. It was like the ship was helping now. One night, while working near the core, Reyna stood alone. She placed her hand on the glass around the glowing sphere. "You're not dead," she whispered. "You're still here. And we're going to give you a new life. Together, we'll show the galaxy what humans can do." She didn't expect anything to happen. But the core pulsed brighter, just once. Like it hurt her, she smiled. Outside, more alien ships passed by. They watched the humans, but didn't attack. They didn't think humans could do anything dangerous with that wreck. Some even felt sorry for them. "Let them play with their broken toy," they said. "It won't help them." But they were wrong. The humans weren't playing. They were preparing. Every day, the Titanus became stronger. Every wire fixed. every system repaired, brought the ship closer to its true power. It had weapons older than most alien empires, armor thicker than modern ships, and now, with human upgrades, it would be more dangerous than ever before. Reyna looked out the window of her ship. The Titanus now had light glowing from deep inside. Its engines hummed faintly. Its body was still broken, but it was changing. She knew they didn't have much time. War was coming fast. But the humans had something now, something no one expected. A ship with a past full of fire, a future full of power, and a name that would shake the stars. Titanus was waking up. Strange things started to happen inside the Titanus. At first, the humans thought it was just old systems waking up. A light would blink on, then off. A door would open and close by itself. But soon, the crew realized something was different, something deeper. The ship wasn't just coming back to life, it was remembering. Engineer Malik was the first to report it. He was working in a dark hallway, fixing a broken power line. Suddenly, the lights flickered and a screen on the wall lit up. It showed a face, half machine, half alien. It stared at him for 3 seconds, then vanished. Malik dropped his tools and ran back to the control room. "I saw something," he said, shaking. It looked alive. Captain Reyna listened carefully. She didn't laugh or call him crazy. She had felt it too. Sometimes, when she walked through the ship alone, she felt cold air on her neck. She heard footsteps behind her, even when no one was there. The Titanus wasn't just a machine. It had a mind. It had scars, and it was trying to speak. More reports came in. One worker heard whispering in the engine room. Another said he saw a figure move through the halls, even though security showed no one was there. Some crew members got scared and wanted to leave. But Reyna stopped them. "This ship was built for war," she said. "It saw death. It saw betrayal. It's not haunted. It's angry. But we're not the enemy." The team brought in special scanners to check for life signs, but nothing showed up. Still, the feelings grew stronger. One night, the power shut down across the whole ship for 5 minutes. No one knew why. When it came back on, the ship's internal map had changed. Doors were in different places. Some rooms had new paths. It was like the ship was rewriting itself. And deep in the center, the core was glowing brighter. Captain Reyna decided to talk to it. She went alone into the core chamber. The walls were warm now, pulsing with soft red light. She stepped close and placed both hands on the glass. "I don't know who you were before," she said quietly, "but you're one of us now. We don't want to control you. We want to fight beside you. Let us help." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the lights in the room dimmed. A soft hum began, and the core's light became steady. Not wild, not broken, calm. It was a sign. The Titanus was listening. From that moment on, things changed. Systems that had refused to work now came online. The weapons room unlocked. Engines that couldn't start before began to power up. The crew worked faster. The ship helped them, guiding them, opening doors before they even reached them. It was like having a silent partner. But the peace didn't last. One of the scanners picked up a signal. A group of alien warships was approaching. They weren't just passing by. They were watching, spying, and preparing. These ships belonged to the Grath, a brutal alien race that once ruled parts of the galaxy. They hated humans. They hated anything that gave humans power. And they feared the Titanus. Captain Reyna knew it was only a matter of time before the Grath attacked. They didn't want to give the humans a chance to finish the ship. "They'll strike soon," she said to her team. "We're not ready yet, but we will be." The crew doubled their efforts. They worked day and night. Every hand on board knew this was more than a job. It was survival. The Titanus had to be ready, or Earth would fall. In one hidden room, they discovered a control panel sealed behind thick walls. It took hours to cut through, but when they opened it, they found something shocking: an ancient star map. It showed battles, lost systems, and enemy bases, but the last mark was Earth. This ship had once been on its way to destroy humanity. It had been a weapon against them. Now it would be their weapon. Reyna stared at the map. Maybe it was meant to kill us, she said. But now it will protect us. That's the power of humans. We don't give up. We don't throw things away. We build. We fix. We fight. And as the alien ships got closer, the Titanus prepared. Lights glowed all across its body. Weapons clicked into place. The engines vibrated with power. The crew stood ready. The ship no longer felt like a wreck. It felt like a giant waking up for the first time in years. Something old had returned, but this time it was on humanity's side. The warning lights turned red. The alien ships were coming. Fast. The crew of the Titanus moved quickly, but their hearts were heavy. The ship was not fully ready. The weapons were only half online. The shields were still weak. Engines were running, but not at full power. Captain Reyna stood in the command center, calm on the outside, but thinking fast inside. She knew they were outnumbered. The Grath weren't here to scare them. They were here to destroy the Titanus before it could rise. Time to arrival, Reyna asked. 4 minutes, replied the pilot. 3 enemy cruisers, 1 battleship, all fully armed. Reyna nodded slowly. Then we fight with what we have. Her voice was firm, but inside, she was worried. This was too soon. The Titanus wasn't ready for a real battle. But there was no choice. If they ran, Earth would be next. If they fought, they might not survive. But at least they would give the enemy something to fear. Power up the plasma cannons, she ordered. Even if they're weak, we use them, and reroute energy from the lights to the shields. The crew moved fast. No one complained. They trusted her. And they believed in the ship. The Titanus was no longer a broken wreck in their minds. It was their home, their hope. Outside, space burned with light as the Grath ships arrived. They didn't waste time. Lasers fired straight at the Titanus. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew inside the control room. A wall panel exploded, throwing 1 crew member to the floor. Shields at 40%, shouted the engineer. We can't take many more hits. Return fire, Reyna commanded. The Titanus answered. 2 old plasma cannons roared to life. Blue fire shot across space and hit one of the enemy cruisers. It didn't destroy it, but it made them slow down. The other ships spread out, surrounding the Titanus. They're trying to trap us, said the pilot. Then we break the trap, Reyna said. Spin the ship. Aim the rear thrusters at the biggest target. The pilot hesitated. Ma'am, that's the battleship. I know, she said. Do it. The Titanus turned sharply, groaning under the strain. The rear thrusters lit up, bright like stars. Then the ship launched forward, straight at the enemy battleship. The Grath didn't expect it. The humans weren't running. They were charging. The Titanus slammed into the enemy ship's shields with a shockwave of light and force. Both ships shook. Alarms screamed. But then something strange happened. The core of the Titanus began to glow brighter than ever before. Power levels jumped. Systems came online that hadn't worked in 100 years. Ancient weapons unlocked. Armor plates shifted into new positions. It was like the ship had decided to wake up fully. The battle had pulled the fire from its memory. The Titanus remembered war, and it was ready to fight again. Reyna's screen lit up with new weapons. What is this? She asked. The weapons officer was stunned. These systems weren't online before. The ship, it's doing it itself. Then let it, Reyna said. Fire everything. The Titanus released a storm of power. Beams of red energy, old-style missiles, and electric blasts shot in every direction. 1 enemy cruiser exploded in seconds. The others tried to move back, but the Titanus was faster now. It didn't move like a broken ship. It moved like a beast. The enemy battleship tried to escape, But the Titanus followed. It launched a new kind of weapon, an energy spear that pierced the Grath's shield and struck the core of the ship. The enemy vessel stopped moving. Then it exploded into a ball of fire. Cheers broke out across the Titanus. The crew couldn't believe it. They were winning. Reyna didn't smile yet. Stay sharp. There are 2 ships left. The Grath ships turned to flee. They had seen enough. They had come to kill a wreck, but now they were running from a monster. The Titanus didn't chase them. It let them go. The message was clear. Earth was not weak. Humans were not broken. And the Titanus was back. The ship powered down its weapons slowly. Smoke filled parts of the hallway. Sparks still flew from damaged wires. But the crew stood tall. They had survived. They had fought. And they had won. Reyna looked at the glowing control screen. "You waited a long time to fight again," she whispered. "Thank you." The core pulsed once in reply. Outside, the stars watched silently. The galaxy had just seen something it would never forget. The Titanus had awakened, and the enemies of Earth would now think twice before attacking again. The crew of the Titanus had won their first battle, but they knew it wasn't over. The Grath might have retreated, but that didn't mean they had given up. And the rest of the galaxy was still watching. Word spread fast. The Titanus had come back from the dead, and now everyone knew that humans had something powerful on their side. Captain Reyna stood on the bridge, looking out into space. She was tired, but she couldn't rest. Not yet. The battle had been won, but they were far from safe. The Grath would come back, and they weren't the only threat in the galaxy. Reyna needed to prepare her ship, her crew, and Earth for what was to come. "Captain," Lieutenant Smith called, his voice shaky. "We're getting a message from the Council. They want to meet with you." Reyna turned to face him. The Council of Earth was the governing body that made decisions for humanity's future in space. They were important, but Reyna knew what this meeting would be about. The Titanus had changed everything. And the Council was not known for making quick decisions. "Send it through," Reyna said, sitting down in her chair. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. The faces of several council members filled the space. They all looked serious, even worried. "Captain Reyna," said Council Leader Isadora, "we've seen what the Titanus can do, and we are concerned." Reyna didn't respond right away. She didn't have to. She knew what they were going to say. "We're worried that this ship is too dangerous," another council member said. "It's a weapon, and weapons can be turned against us." "It's not just a weapon," Reyna said calmly. "It's our ally. It helped us survive. It helped us win. The Titanus isn't just a ship. It's proof of what humans can do. We built it from the ground up. We fixed it. We made it stronger. We made it ours." "I understand that, Captain," Leader Isadora said, her voice softening. "But we are not the only ones watching this. The Grath may have backed off, but there are others out there, enemies we haven't even met yet. The Titanus could attract more threats. You could bring war to Earth." Reyna looked at the faces on the screen. She knew they were scared. They saw the power of the Titanus, and they feared it. They feared what it could do if it fell into the wrong hands. "Then we protect Earth," Reyna said. "We don't hide. We don't cower in fear. We stand strong. The Titanus will guard Earth and the colonies. It will protect us from whatever comes. The galaxy won't forget what we did today." The council members exchanged uncertain glances. Reyna could see the fear in their eyes. She didn't blame them. But she also knew she had to convince them. The Titanus wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol. A symbol that humanity wasn't weak, that they could rise again. After a long silence, Council Leader Isadora spoke again. "We will allow you to continue your mission, Captain, but you must work closely with the Council. No more secrets. We need to know what you're doing, and we need to be prepared." Reyna nodded. "Understood. I'll keep you informed." The meeting ended, and the image of the council members disappeared. The room went quiet. Reyna sat back in her chair, staring out at the stars. She knew the Titanus wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a message, a warning, to the Grath, to anyone who would threaten Earth. But it was also a promise, to her crew, to humanity, that they would never be weak again, that they would fight, that they would win. The crew went back to work. The Titanus wasn't done yet. There was still much to do. Weapons to fix, engines to upgrade, shields to strengthen. The battle had been won, but it was only the beginning. They still needed to prepare for the next fight. And Reyna knew that the next battle wouldn't be against just one enemy. There were many enemies out there. The Grath were just the first. Reyna stood up and walked through the hallways of the Titanus. The ship was quieter now, the hum of its engines steady and strong. She could feel the power inside it. The ancient core pulsed with energy. The Titanus was more than a weapon now. It was alive, and it was ready. She walked to the command center, where her crew was already working hard. They were a team. They had become something more than just people working together. They had become a family. And they were ready to face whatever came next. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter. Reyna smiled. They had made it this far. They had taken a broken wreck and turned it into a superweapon. And now they would use it to protect Earth. The galaxy would know the Titanus. They would remember the name of the ship that had come back from the dead. And they would never forget the humans who had made it rise again. Weeks passed, and the Titanus continued to improve. The crew worked tirelessly, repairing and upgrading systems. The ship was no longer the broken wreck it once was. It was a mighty force, a super weapon that the galaxy now feared. But Captain Reyna knew the war was far from over. She had seen the messages from the other alien species, the whispers that carried through space. The Grath weren't the only ones who would come for Earth. The Titanus was now ready for anything. But the crew still faced unknown dangers. Reyna couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger, something more dangerous, was out there, waiting. She walked the halls of the ship, her boots echoing against the metal floors. The ship was quiet now, but the calm before a storm always made her uneasy. "Captain," came a voice over the intercom. "You need to see this." It was Lieutenant Smith, the communications officer. Reyna quickly made her way to the command center, where Smith was already waiting. He pointed to a screen, showing a new set of coordinates. "The Grath," Smith said, "they're gathering their forces. They've called for reinforcements." Reyna narrowed her eyes. "Where?" "Here," Smith replied. "Right on the edge of our territory. It looks like they're planning to strike Earth directly." Reyna clenched her fists. They had been preparing for this moment, but she had hoped it wouldn't come so soon. Earth wasn't ready for an all-out war with the Grath. They needed time to strengthen their defenses, to form alliances with other species. But time was something they didn't have. "Alert the crew," Reyna ordered. "Prepare the Titanus. We're going to stop them before they reach Earth." As the crew scrambled to ready the ship, Reyna stood in the command center, her thoughts racing. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was their chance to prove themselves. The Titanus had shown what humans could do. Now it was time to show the galaxy that Earth was not to be underestimated. The Titanus launched into space, engines roaring as the crew moved with purpose. They had fought together before, and they would fight together again. But this time, it would be different. They were no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to protect everything they had built. As they reached the battle zone, Reyna's heart raced. On the screens, she could see the massive fleet of Grath ships. There were dozens of them, far more than the Titanus could take on alone. But Reyna didn't hesitate. She knew what had to be done. "Launch the drones," she ordered. "We'll use them as a distraction." The Titanus released dozens of small attack drones, which flew toward the Grath ships. The enemy fleet fired upon them, but the drones were fast and evasive. They distracted the Grath, giving the Titanus a chance to get closer. Reyna knew they couldn't win this battle with numbers alone. They would have to outsmart their enemies. "Power up the secondary weapons," she commanded. "We're going to take them down one ship at a time." The Titanus weapons powered up, and for a moment, the ship felt alive. The core hummed with energy. The crew worked quickly, loading and launching missiles, firing laser beams, and activating every weapon they had. The Graf fleet was huge, but the Titanus was fast and unpredictable. As the battle raged, Reyna saw something unexpected. One of the Graf ships had broken away from the main fleet. It was heading straight for the Titanus. "It's a suicide mission," Reyna realized. "They're trying to take us down." The Graf ship closed the distance quickly, its weapons charging. Reyna's mind raced. The Titanus wasn't fast enough to dodge, and it didn't have enough time to destroy the ship before it made contact. She needed to think fast. "Pilot," Reyna shouted, "get us close. We're going to use the Titanus core as a shield." The pilot hesitated for a moment, then quickly understood. "Aye, Captain." The Titanus spun toward the incoming Graf ship, engines roaring. The Graf ship fired its weapons, but the Titanus shields absorbed most of the blasts. Then, with a sudden, powerful move, the Titanus rammed into the enemy ship, using its massive core to crush it against the ship's hull. The explosion that followed lit up the dark expanse of space. The shockwave rattled the Titanus, but it held strong. The crew cheered as the Graf ship was destroyed. But the battle was far from over. More ships incoming. The sensors officer called out, "It's not just the Graf. We have other enemies coming in from the east." Reyna cursed under her breath. She had known this wasn't going to be easy, but she also knew the Titanus wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol, and as long as it flew, humanity had a chance. "Bring it on," Reyna said, her voice steady. "We're ready." The Titanus powered up again, and the crew prepared for the next wave of enemies. They had already survived one battle, and they would survive this one too. Together, they would fight to protect Earth, to show the galaxy that humans were no longer weak. The ship roared into battle, its engines blazing and its weapons firing with deadly precision. The Graf fleet might have been larger, but the Titanus had something they didn't. It had the power of humanity's will, and that made all the difference.